Hello everyone at Drum Percussion Studio. I am Troy. You are at my home studio with me and my pups. This is Jake. Don't touch him, he might bite. And this is Juju. They both have underbites. And I love them very much. Anywho, I just wanted to take a second to let everyone know that just because you don't have a marimba at home does not mean you can't practice your marimba chops. I brought my stick bag home, so I have 4 mallets. Although I do have a vibraphone, I'm showing you how you can practice at home on your own without the use of an actual instrument. So what I did was I turned my coffee table into a mallet source or a keyboard source. So I just have a towel over top. I folded it up so I'm not going to dent the coffee table. You can do this on the floor, setting down. The floor, you're not going to hurt the floor. I always want to make sure that I have a metronome and my notes as far as what I'm going to work on. So I'm never going to sit down to practice and just willy-nilly do anything. So I want to have a designated, routine. So today I'm working on 4 mallet marimba technique. So I'm going to work a simple warm-up exercise. From my left to right, I label the mallets 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm going to do as a warm-up is I'm just going to play 4 piston strokes per mallet. So my set position is about 6 or 7 inches above the keyboard or the coffee table. And a piston stroke is 1 rotation down and returning back to its set position. That is a piston stroke. Now what I said I was going to do is 4. So that's 4 piston strokes per mallet, and that is what I'm going to use as a warm-up. I'm thinking a lot about the rotation of the axis of each mallet. So I'm thinking about where it starts, where it finishes. It always comes back to the top. And these are rattan mallets, so they're a little bit more flimsy. I like birch for marimba mallets, but I'm at home using what I have. So let's start. So here's an example of my warm-up. My timer is on my phone, which I'm using to record this, so I don't have that timer. However, I'll just give you a small example of how I would do it. So this is piston strokes, 4 per mallet at 70 beats a minute. And I'll do 1/8 notes. 1, 2, ready, go. And so what I'm looking for is the rotation. Is everything coming back up to its original set position? And am I rotating? What I don't want to see is if I'm playing on my number 1 mallet here, I don't want to see a ton of movement. Now it's in the same hand, so it's going to move a little bit. But as you can see, the number 2 mallet is roughly staying set in its set position. Or likewise, when I play piston strokes this way, you can see my number 1 mallet stays. So I'm kind of rotating on the axis of the mallet I'm not using. Okay, fair enough. So the way I would do that is that was a good start position, and I give it a couple moments on that, and then I bump the tempo up. I usually bump tempo for me, I usually bump in 5 beat per minute increments. Right now I'm just gonna do 10, just to kind of show you within 5 to 10 minute warm up, I might have progressed at least 10 clicks. So this is 80 beats a minute at 8th note rate. 1, 2, ready, play. Ready and stop. Everything returns back to normal. So that would be a good 5 to 10 minute warm up, and I would keep bumping the tempo as I feel more and more comfortable. I can tell that when I'm playing my number 3 mallet, it's giving me a little trouble as far as keeping my outside mallet steady. But I know that about my own playing. And what's great about this is the exercise is not overly difficult. But what I'm really thinking about is not so much about what am I doing really well, but what am I not doing really well. And that's my focus. So I was thinking much more about these 2 mallets during that exercise because I could tell that they weren't responding as well. So I just saw it again there. So use that time as a warm-up. Should be something you can already do but that you can make better. Fair enough? So then the next phase of my process is I'll use another permutation. A permutation is just rearranging the order in which I'm going to use the mallets. So the permutation I just used was 1, 2, 3, 4, but I played 4 beats per mallet. This time I'm going to just play 1, 2, 3, 4 with just 1 beat per mallet. And I'm going to stay at 80 beats a minute now. So the order would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, ready, go. Fair enough. So now let's say I'm into my exercise, or rather I'm into my practice routine, and this is something that I'm really trying to perfect. Let me just pick another one that I feel I already know I need some work on, and then I'll show you a great example of how I would actually do that. So I'm into the meat and potatoes of my exercise now, my routine. I'm gonna pick a permutation that is very similar to the other, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this is a triplet based 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to change my metronome to fit that. So this is triplets at 80 beats a minute. Let's just use that for now. So my goal is to really clean this up little by little. This part of my warm-up, or this part of my routine would be about 15-20 minutes. Depending on how much time you have to practice, a main focus should be at least 15 to 20 minutes, if not 25 minutes. And that's a pretty good chunk. Because you want to be able to come into your main focus not being able to do something very well and come out feeling good about what you've accomplished. So you don't want to just go around going, oh goodness, I'm just playing around all nimbly. That's not the idea of practice routine. This is Jake. This is his hog. He loves it. So let me start here. I'll give you an example of how I would build this main focus part of my exercise, my routine. Excuse me, good. 1, 2, ready and to go. Now I'm really focusing on what I'm doing here. This isn't a time for me to just be a space cadet. I'm really thinking about what I'm doing. 1, 2, ready and go. I feel like I'm ready to bump this up, so I'm just going to do it 10 clicks to show you the progression, but really my next bump would normally be 5 clicks. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so things I'm thinking about. The rotation is everything. Am I turning the doorknob? Am I watching my first fingers and making sure that the connection between my thumb and first finger does not become this? Do not want my first finger scooping down here. I lose a lot of control and then my wrist starts to turn over. I think about the thumb being straight up toward the sky. You don't want your thumbs turning in like this. Check it out. Your thumb is pointed straight up. Because if I want to rotate this way, I have full amount of rotation. And if I need to rotate that way, I have full amount. If my thumb is already here, my rotation on my inside mallet would be limited. So you really need to think of these things. All right, I'm going to bump it up again. Here we go. It's 100 beats a minute, so 10 more clicks. 1, 2, ready, go. So I'm thinking of staying relaxed. It's a piston stroke in that the stick, or the mallet rather, returns to its set position. But as it speeds up, it becomes more of a fluid wave-like rotation, where you're going to have to rely more on the rolling of the rotation of your wrist more than an up and down. So there's a fine line. There's a threshold you'll cross where it's no longer a piston stroke. Now it's just the rotation of the mallet. And that's where I'm at about this tempo. It's still close to a piston stroke, not quite just the rotation. So I'm going to bump it up 5 more clicks. 1, 2, ready. Okay, so now a couple of things you may have noticed, but I definitely noticed was one, I made a mistake in the exercise where I messed up part of the permutation. There's nothing wrong with that because practice should not just sound great. It should sound like you're actually working on something. So for me, that's telling me, okay, I don't, the permutation is still something I need to, practice a little bit more. Two, I'm listening for the sound of each mallet. Is it striking at the same volume as the others? I don't want one all dipping off into a level 1 when it should be a level 3 or 4 like all the rest. And then the evenly spacing of the notes. So this is how I would practice, and this is how I would approach my home routine where I have my metronome. I want to keep myself steady, especially since I'm practicing something new, or maybe it's not new, but I want to stay very true to a digital click. I have my notes on the things I want to practice and want to get better at. I'm not coming in with just stuff in my head. That's why every one of you has a journal. You have things you've been working on. All of those things in that journal, I guarantee are stuff you can get better at. I have my own journal here. So the coffee table keyboard, it's perfect, can't beat it. Roll it up even more if you don't want to make more noise. I have a carpet on the floor. I could sit down on the floor and do it, but I'm getting older and it's bad on my back. I have my pups here. See if this one let me do. Well, usually he'll try and bite you, but take that away from him, he may. Anyway, this is my practice routine for mallets when I'm at home and unable to get to a studio. All right? Happy practicing. See you soon.